skin is glowing, my energy is flowing, confidence growing, glow up is loading. When I look in the mirror, I see everything I want and everything I can ever need. I attract.
Hey guys, it's your girl Nicki, also known as Cute as Button, and welcome back to my channel. All right, today I am going to be talking to you guys about the part 2 of I married a narcissist, no happily ever after. And honestly, that part of the story is over. I'm not going to elaborate or go in depth. I'm going to link it so that you guys can watch it at your convenience if you want to see part 1. Now, part 2 is really all about me, all right? This is how I overcame and how I got to where I am now. If you saw my Instagram story or like my Snapchat, you saw that I quit my job. Now, I have been a special education teacher for the last 10 years. So for the last decade, I was a special education teacher. And this was the year that I finally called it quits. It was very emotional. It was very, yeah, it was just a very emotional experience. It was a very big decision for me to make. So I'm going to get into how we got here. Like, all right, so this also has to do with, you know, the whole divorce and breakup. All right. So lastly, the last thing I want you guys to do is make sure that you subscribe and click the bell for notifications so that you are notified whenever I drop a new video so that you don't miss a thing. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So this is when I told you guys in the last video, I was going through this divorce and it was taking forever. So while we were still separated, no, actually the divorce had just finalized. I was going to work. You know, we hadn't lived together in over a year and a half. So it's not like, you know, I'm all up under him, he's up under me. Like, it's an uncomfortable situation as far as that. But it was uncomfortable for me because I had to actually, you know, now I have all of these responsibilities. I moved down to Atlanta. I moved down to Georgia with someone, with a helpmate who I thought was going to be here the entire time. So, you know, the responsibilities of mothering, the responsibilities of being an educator, the responsibilities of just being a woman, you know, all the things that I have to do in my daily repertoire was, you know, taking a toll on me. So now I am the sole person who's doing literally everything. So my son, he's a football player. My daughter does cheer. And then you guys know I had at the time, you know, my 4-year-old. So I'm taking care of my 4-year-old. Now, he had just been diagnosed to be on the autism spectrum disorder. So that in itself, those of you who have kids with special needs, you already know, like, they have sensory issues. You have certain things that's going on. And a lot of the times people thought that because I am a special education teacher, I know what this looks like. I know what to do. No, I'm clueless. Like, I know as far as being in a classroom with students who are in a high school setting, and I, you know, give them back to their parents at the end of the day, essentially. Like, I'm not living with them. So this is another thing that I'm learning and going through while I'm going through everything with me physically, emotionally, and it was just a mess. So I remember, I don't know if I was sleeping, daydreaming, or whatever, but I remember during the summer, so this is the summer of 2022, I remember hearing whispers from the Holy Spirit, like, do not go back to work, like, quit your job. And I know it sounds crazy. Those of you who aren't spiritual, like, I'm just going to give you a trigger warning because you may not relate to this, but those of you who know, you know. Like, all right. So I had little whisperings like, quit your job. And I was just like, yeah, nah, God, I cannot quit my job. Like, this is all I know. This is all I've done since I graduated from, you know, grad school, since I graduated from college. Like, the only thing I've done is teach. So what are you asking me to do? Like, this is how I make a living. And then especially now, like, going through this divorce. So the divorce is not final yet. So I'm like, you know, going through this divorce, like, I absolutely need my job. This is the only way that I'm going to stay afloat. Like, during this time, my ex-husband was very, very nasty and spiteful. Go figure, right? So I'm like, I don't really have any extra income, whereas normally like whatever I would pay for, he would supplement with his income and stuff like that. We don't have that kind of relationship right now. So I'm like, God, I no. And it's so funny because let me just point out, if you grew up in a Christian, household, Christian religion, we always say, if God tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. I ain't going to ask no questions because it's God. And then as soon as God asks us to do something, we're like, no, Jesus, what you want me? No. How am I supposed to, like, I just wanted to throw that in there. So I did not quit my job. I went back to work. So those of you who know, school starts in the South in August. So I went back to work in August. August was okay. By the time we got to September, I was like, I can't do this. By the time we got to October, so we have fall break in October in the South. And fall break is usually, it's kind of like, it's not a week. It's about like 4 days of no school. And I know in New York, it's normally around like the Columbus Day. So Columbus Day weekend or whatever. So in the South, it will be the week before that. So the week before that, we had like these 4 days off. And it's usually like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then we go back either Tuesday or Wednesday. It was something like that. So I remember, so by the time October came, the beginning of October, I had really started to, I think my depression really kicked in. So I was really in a low place. Like I could not function in my regular, setting. So I'll give you an example. It was those of you who suffer from depression or have ever been depressed, then excuse my dog. It was either, take a shower, get dressed, go to work, be at work all day. And when I came home, I could do absolutely nothing. When I talk about absolutely nothing, I'm talking about I don't even have the capacity. One, I don't even know how I got here. Like, I don't know how I got home. So I'm just driving and I can't recollect or remember how I got from point A to point B. All I know is that I made it. All right. Number two, I wasn't cooking. I wasn't cleaning the house. I wasn't doing, it was just like, I had no energy. I literally utilized all of the energy that I had to go to work. And those of you who ever taught or, teaching takes a lot of energy. Like, I don't know if people understand, like, you're always on for your students. So when you're teaching a lesson, you don't just get up there mundane and like, those of you, I'm sure my age, but like the Clear Eyes guy, you're not there like, okay, this is the lesson and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you have to make it animated. You have to make it personable so that the kids get it. So, I'm giving all of my energy teaching these lessons, showing them how to, how do you find theme? How do, whatever the hell the lesson is, right? So I'm putting my all into this. And while I'm doing that, like I said, I had no energy when I got home, which is unfair to my kids. And I knew that, like, I would be laying in the bed, like, trying to, like, just get up, just order Uber Eats, just order DoorDash. But I was so mentally, like, my brain is running. So I'm laying there, I'm depressed, but it's also like I'm overthinking everything, all of the situations. I'm overthinking, how am I going to do certain things? Like, how am I going to, keep this house? Like, I just purchased this house. How am I going to keep it with my salary? How am I going to be able to be flexible with the kids and all of their activities? Make sure I make it to everything. How am I going to stay on top of my grading and stuff? And I can't even focus. Like, that was a big thing for me. I remember praying like night after night, like, God, just help me focus. Help me focus on, I used to pray like, at different times, like, please help me focus on the house so that I can clean up, so that I can, it's like laundry was piling up. My daughter is good about, keeping dishes in the kitchen, but, it's a big house and we have a lot of room. So who's going to put that on a 13-year-old? You know what I'm saying? Like, so of course, I'm not requiring her, or it's not her responsibility. So I'm like, I know me as the adult, I have to like pull it together, but I just could not get it. So, so I remember Like one day I was at work and I think I was like crying at my desk. So during my prep period, I'm supposed to be planning and I'm at my desk crying. And I was just like, God, like if you get me out of this situation, like I know you told me to quit this job. Obviously, I see why you told me to do it because, you know, I was going through the grief process, you know, and grief comes in waves. You guys know this. Grief comes in different things. And I didn't really allow myself time to actually grieve the divorce, grieve everything that I was going through. So I was still on go, 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 go. And it was taking a toll on me for the worse. So yes, I was still in therapy, but now once a week compared to everything that I had to do during the day, it just wasn't sufficient. So I'm at my desk and I'm like crying and I'm like, God, like if you get me out of this, I'll listen. Like I just can't, like I can't do this. I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna do it with no money, but like you're gonna make a way. So I go on my work computer and I kid you not, like the Holy Spirit, yo, God is so dope because it's like I go on my laptop and I see it's like a little pin. You know how like you pin a message where like the message is pinned for you so like it could be brought to your attention because you know it's important. There was a message pin. It wasn't a message pin. It was a link pinned, and it was for like short-term and long-term disability, like how to apply. And I was like, what's this? Like, because I'm looking and I'm like, I'm never seen this before. So I'm like, what is this? And then I hear like the voice of God and he's just so gracious. And it's like, tell your therapist that you can no longer go to work. Like it is taking a toll on you emotionally. Like you can't get up out of bed and fill out those papers. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I guess this is why you're God, right? Like I never would have thought, I've never been on disability before, so I'm not sure how it works. So I was just like, okay. So long story short, that my birthday was October 17th because I think we had the break. So we had fall break. It had to be like the 10th or something like that. The 10th or 12th something. So we go on when fall break, and after fall break, I put in those papers like I'm not coming back. And it was very difficult for me to do because I felt like I was doing a disservice to my students. I'm like, you know, like, dang, they don't have a teacher. Why didn't I do this in the beginning of the school year? At least they could have found somebody else to replace me. Like, I had a lot of guilt for taking the time off. But at the same time, like, I really had to tell myself, too, like you are not doing your best. Like, you're going in there, you're teaching, but you are not being your best self. And, you know, the Bible tells you, like, whatever you do it with a joyful heart. Like, I cannot honestly say that I'm being a good teacher because I'm not teaching with a joyful heart. Like, there's no way that I'm in here doing what I need to do. So it's a disservice to my students because I'm not showing up as my best self. And I think that's even worse than not being there at all. So I made sure that I just made sure that I gave them that. So I put in those paper and I was out, right? So while I was out, I was trying to come up with a routine. And honestly, the routine in the beginning was literally just crying. Crying was the routine. I would get up, I would get the kids ready. So my son took the school bus, and my daughter at the time, her dad would still come in the morning because she didn't start school until 9 o'clock. So he would come in the morning and take her to school. Now, I did not tell anyone that I went on this leave. The only person that knew was my mom and the kids. So my ex didn't know that I was on this leave. Nobody else knew. So I would get up in the morning. Once my son went on the school bus at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, I was already up and dressed, and I would go to the gym. And I was just like, you know, let me just go. And I wasn't going for like physical fitness. I was going to clear my head. I wasn't sleeping. My eating's all crazy. Sometimes I would eat, sometimes I wouldn't. Like, it was just a mess, right? So I would go to the gym and I would just walk on the treadmill. And as I would walk, I started like listening to like affirmations. I would listen to like different people. I would listen to a lot of Louise Hay. I would listen to what you call it, Neville. I forgot his last name, but a lot of like the inspirational, you know, affluent people on YouTube who just all about creating your mindset, turning your reality, and manipulating like how you see things, so that, you know, once your mind wherever the mind flows, the body will follow. So that type of situation. So I remember just walking on the treadmill. No, actually I'm lying. I started walking in the park because it's October. So October in Georgia is still, you know, hot. Like we're still in the 70s, like high 70s. So like 78, sometimes 80. So yeah, I would take him from the school bus and go to the park. And because it's still light out, I would like walk the path, and I can't tell you how many laps I did, but I just walked until I was kind of like exhausted. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I'm ready to go. So I would just walk, and half the time I'm walking and crying. Half the time I'm just like walking. Like I said, I'm listening to these affirmations. I'm listening to these people, and just trying to give myself more confidence, more courage. Like, you know, everybody goes through things. Like this is just a season. So just, you know, kind of just putting that through my brain. So after that, I would go back home and I would start the day. So then it's like, okay, I'll take a shower, I'll eat breakfast, and I would choose one task, right? So I had a list of things. Like I wrote a list, and I was just like, you know, the house is a mess, but it's like this part of the house is a mess. Is this part of you know, this needs to be prepped, or I'm gonna cook this for dinner today. And I wasn't too, I really was like learning to show myself grace. So it was like I wasn't gonna fall into my like I have to cook every single night, the kids need this, I was fine with ordering out. Like, did they eat? Okay, cool. I did my job as mom. Good job. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of parents are like really hard on themselves because it's like, I'm not cooking a home cooked meal. I'm not giving them, you know, I'm doing a disservice to my kids. But honestly, that was the best I could do at the time. So that's what it was. So I would prep probably like one meal for the week. Like, okay, today I'm going to make a big pot of spaghetti, and it's only the three of us, so that worked out because that would last us a couple of days, because like I said, it's three of us. So I would just go through the task until like everything started to come together. Now I took this leave from October, and I went back in January. I remember in January my job contacted me asking me if I was going to come back. And honestly, y'all, I was thinking about quitting right then and there. I was just like, yeah, I don't have any intention of coming back. But they were like, you know, we are having problems finding a long-term sub for your class. And I was just like, you know, it's really not the kids' fault. I am feeling a lot better. Like now I get up, like I know my routine, I know like how to get started. So I was like, you know, I'll go back to work. So this is January 30th, when I was going back to work. So I remember a couple of days before going back to work, I started having these weird, vivid ass dreams. And I was just like, it was like giving me anxiety. Like, okay, like I fell back into the, like, I don't want to go back to where I was, like where I couldn't balance, I couldn't manage what, you know, I was going to do. So I started having these weird dreams, and I have a dream journal, and I would like write them down. And I'm talking to my therapist like the weekend before I'm supposed to go back on that Monday, and she's just like, so how do you feel? And I'm just like, honestly, I'm scared to death. I don't want to be back in like that dark place where I couldn't even function. Like it wasn't fun. Like nobody likes to be depressed. Like we don't just sit around and be like, oh, you know, like we're feeling this way because we want to. Nobody wants to feel like that. Nobody wants to feel nothing. Nobody wants to feel numb. Like it's I can't even describe, but it's just not fun. Like it's not where you want to be. So I remember talking to her, and she's just like, now listen, you have different tools that we've been working on that's going to help you, so you don't have to worry about, you know, falling back into that dark place. You know, when you feel like this, you could do, you know, just going over the different strategies that I have been working on in therapy. So I was just like, okay, you're right. I got this. It's going to be great. So I got my clothes out and went back to work. All right. Honestly, in my head, I said, okay, so it's January. Originally, I was going back to work in March. The reason why I picked March is because, so April, we have spring break. So I was like, okay, if I go back to work in March, April, we have spring break, which is a week off. So that means, all right, 3 weeks. You can knock out 3 weeks. 3 weeks is nothing. You can do that in your sleep. And then after spring break, we get out in May. So another 2 weeks of classes, and then we'll have 2 weeks of finals, and then school year's over. You did it. You met your contract obligations. So that was my whole mindset. Like, all right, go back in March, spring break in April, and then school is done in May. You could do this. Like, that's how I was psyching myself up. So when they called me in January asking me after the new year, like, hey, can you come back? I was just like, no. Like, no, I cannot come back. But I decided to come back. I came back January 30th, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna make the best of it. And honestly, I miss my kids like crazy. Like, they were like, where were you? Because again, like I said, nobody knew I was going on this leave. Like, and it was interesting because it's like everybody's like, we didn't even know, like, like some of my coworkers who I am cool with, but you don't tell everybody your business. Like, they know I'm getting the divorce, but it doesn't look like it's affecting me. So they're like, we didn't even know, like, you were having a difficult time. Like, you were still like normal and bubbly when you were around other people. And then they didn't know, as soon as like my planning period came, like, I'm crying on my desk, or I'm like, there was a couple of times I was crying in front of like my 7th period class, like, which is the last class of the day. And I think it's because of the, going back home type situation. Like, I know, like, okay, after this class, I'm heading home. And when I get home, like, one, I can't stand the thought of being in this house that I thought, I was going to be here with my family. And then two, it was just a lot of stress on me, and a lot of, like, I had a lot of guilt on even the divorce. Like, I'm a Christian woman and I'm getting a divorce, but like, what does the Bible say about that? Like, how are people going to perceive me? Like, I took on a lot of the me, but in reality, it's just like, sis, this was not your fault. And this is not what God's plan is for you. So it took me a while to get to that place, like, to accept, listen, this is what happened, this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be. So, yeah. So let's move on to, that was how I got in, like, my break and how I went back to work. So when the school year ended, I think a couple of weeks before the school year ended, we got our contracts, and the contract tells you, how much they're going to offer you for the next school year and blase, all that stuff. So I remember getting the notification that my contract is in the mail, and here comes God, stick to the plan. I was like, who said that? No, but seriously. So God is like, stick to the plan. I was like, I know, God, like, I'm not signing this contract. And I think the thing is too, like, God was reminding me, like, yo, you're going to see this contract. You're going to see the amount of money that they're offering you, and you're going to see stability. But this is not the plan I have for you. So I was like, listen, I learned my lesson. Another thing that I forgot to mention to you guys. So, but when I first went on leave, before I went on leave, when I was back at work, so like this August, September-ish time, when it started to like take a toll on me, I told you God had told me to quit my job last year, and I didn't listen. So I would go to sleep, and I forgot to mention this, and I was dreaming about Jonah. Those of you who know the story of Jonah, God sent Jonah to deliver a message to his people. He sent him to, I believe it was Nineveh, right? So he sends Jonah to Nineveh to deliver a message. Jonah's like, yeah, God, I got you. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go. But Jonah doesn't want to go, so he winds up like someplace else. Like, he's like running from God, but God is God. So of course he sees him, and he's like, Jonah, what you doing? Like, you ain't heading in the direction that I sent you to go to Nineveh to tell my people the message. Jonah like lies to God, like, oh, no, I just had to make a stop right quick. Like, I'm gonna get there. Da, 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 da. Long story short, Jonah goes into the sea with these fishermen, and he's on the boat, and it was clear, you know, the skies were clear, and then all of a sudden it starts to turn dark, and the storms are coming. So everybody's running to hide, and the people on the boat are like, yo, whoever got God mad, like, I wouldn't want to be in their predicament. Meanwhile, Jonah's there knowing it's him. And that's how Jonah gets, thrown off of the boat. So when they say Jonah was swallowed by a fish, it wasn't a fish, it was a whale, because Jonah didn't listen to God. Like, God sent Jonah to deliver a message, and Jonah was trying to outsmart God, kind of like be secretive. But God is God, and he already knows what's up. So yeah, so he sends Jonah gets thrown off the boat. I forgot if the people threw him off because they knew that he disobeyed God, or if God had, threw him off the boat. But long story short, he ends up in the belly of the whale. God comes to visit him, and he's like, yo, what's up? Like, what you doing? And he was just like, you know what? I know you sent me to do such and such, but, I wasn't trying to do it, and I disobeyed you, and I know the error of my ways. So long story short, I was getting dreams of Jonah, and not saying that I was going to end up in the belly of a whale, but what's your whale? You know what I'm saying? To me, it was staying in this job that I'm absolutely miserable. Like, I can't function. My mental health is taking a turn. And that was my whale, because I wasn't listening. So I kept dreaming of Jonah over and over and over every single night. And I think it was God trying to get me to make this connection. Like, yo, I told you to do something, and you flat out told me no. And like, who you think you are? Like, how dare you? And I really had to take that and be like, you know what? You're right. Like, I took that L. And so that's why I had went on the leave, and I followed instructions. So when God came back to me, when the contracts dropped, it was like, stick to the plan. I was like, you ain't got to tell me twice, because I ain't trying to be back in the belly of the whale. Like, I'm not trying to be in my whale. Like, it's symbolic. Like, what is the whale in your life, right? So I then now I opened the contract, because I'm like, let me see what they're offering. And then I'm like, get somebody else to do it once I see it. So that I really was just like, I'm not signing my contract. I had never resigned or quit a job before, so I was just like, I didn't know like the rules. Like, am I supposed to speak? Like, who am I supposed to speak to? Am I supposed to tell anybody? Because I was just gonna flat out not sign my contract and just be like, oh, well, they're gonna know because I didn't sign a contract. So then I tell like a couple of people who I'm close with at work, and they're like, well, you have to meet with the principal, and you have to do, and I was like, oh, okay. So I go and meet with my principal and tell her, like, unfortunately, I won't be coming back next year. So I fill out the paperwork, doing the separation of service. And she wishes me well and thanks me for coming back, because she's like, I know this is difficult. I know you have a lot going on, but we appreciate you coming back, because, we really did need you. Kids love you. They needed you. They were always asking about you. So, that was good to hear from my principal or whatever. So yeah, so that's how I got to like quit my job. Right, that's how we ended up here. It was kind of like a chain reaction from the whole divorce process, and this had nothing to do with it. So when I left New York, I had wanted to stop teaching, but I was like, maybe it was the location, maybe it wasn't, because it wasn't the kids, but it's just like, roles and responsibilities, the salary, just the amount of work, and like I said, the energy that you put into education is very, very daunting. Like, it really has to be a job that you absolutely love, because you're definitely not doing it for the paycheck. You're definitely not doing it for like any other reason than you love the students, you love learning, you love teaching. And I do love all of those things, but because of the life that I have and the lifestyle that I'm trying to build for my family by myself, it wasn't conducive to what I was trying to do. So I had to separate myself from education. And even this week, so school has been out for a week And I started to go back. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. I started to go back into panic mode because I remember like the first day is like, okay, it's Memorial Day weekend, so nobody's doing nothing. We're cooking out. When that Tuesday happened, you know, you have Monday off for Memorial Day, but Tuesday when everybody else goes back to work, your girl was panicked. I was like, I don't have a job. I don't have a job. Like, relax, sis. It's okay. I had met up on a Zoom with so she's on Instagram, and I'll link her Instagram below. Her name is Sania. She's like, she talks about like turning like 9-to-5 hotties into like 6-figure income and how you can transfer your skills and whatever. So really dope chick. Like, she is amazing. So I had a Zoom call with her, and I remember telling her, like, you know, I was a teacher for 10 years. Like, I want to transfer outside of the classroom. I need to make more money. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm kind of lost. And she was just really helping me out. Like, you know, like, what skills do you have? Like, we were going through what I've done, things I've accomplished while being an educator, certifications and other things that I have. And we came up with a plan on how I can turn that, like, update my resume and turn that into a job search on Indeed and on LinkedIn so that I can get, you know, these jobs. So once I had that meeting with her, I kind of like calmed down, because it's just like, yo, I do have skills. There are other things that I can do. And I think it was between, you know, not thinking that I could do, not that I couldn't do anything else, but it's just like finding the confidence to pivot into another, you know, career path was one. And then also the other was, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, like, after COVID, we found so many different ways to make money, so many different ways to do different things. So I think it's one of those things too about having faith in yourself and knowing that you're good. Like, I remember telling myself all last week, like, no, you don't have a job, but you are okay. No, you don't have a job, but you are safe. Like, you're following instructions. And, you know, sometimes God gives us a piece to the puzzle. He doesn't give us the full picture yet, because it's not for us to have. Like, we got to go through some things. We have to learn some lessons. And so then we could look back and be like, oh God, I see why you did what you did. So right now I'm in the learning path. So I'm learning how to have confidence in myself, how to ask for what I need. When I needed support, I needed to reach out to somebody who was more experienced than me. For me, that was, you know, Sania, who was the, you know, the job coach. So all of those like play a factor. Like, every single person you come in contact with. Also my therapist, like, just because, yes, the divorce is over, but there are still things that I'm working on in myself. There's still things that I'm unpacking. So I need my therapist. Like, these are the people who are making up my community and like my my comfort zone, so that I feel like I'm not here in Georgia alone. Like, in the first video, I kept saying, like, I'm here. I have no family. I have no friends. I have no nothing. Whereas now I have a community. I do have people that I can say, you know what, like, I'm not feeling so good. Do you have time? Do you have the mental space to hear what I'm about to say? Because I mean, not everybody can listen to your problem when they got their own stuff going on. So it was just a learning process for me. It's a learning process, just you know, breaking out of the routine. So that is the update on why I quit my job. And it's also the part 2 of how, you know, the divorce played into all of this. So everything was a chain reaction. Like I said, I couldn't talk about one without talking about the other. I'm so happy that you guys could join me. I do have a blog coming up. It should be posting this week. If you don't follow me on social media, make sure you do, because I will definitely let you know ahead of time where you can find that information and where to look out for it. So I do have some things in the works. So even though I'm not working, I'm working, all right? So I'm always working. I will still have videos coming out for you guys, because, you know, fashion and lifestyle, it's just me. That's just what I like. That's what I love. I love hair. I love nails. I love all things fashion, beauty, aesthetics. Like, it's just me. And I think I'm doing a lot more self-discovery. So I think this summer I'll be taking some dance classes. I'll just be doing some stuff, getting back to, you know, the basics of stuff that I like to do, things that really represent me. So I'm really excited to go on this journey with you guys. If it resonated with you, please make sure you leave a comment below. Let me know like how you guys deal with certain things. How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with anxiety? Have you ever quit your job and, you know, made a decision or a life-changing, any type of life-changing decision? How did you feel? Like, what are some things I can expect? Like, talk to me. Let this be a conversation. Let's build a community between all of us, because I know I am not the only person that's going through this. Whether it's a divorce, whether it's switching job paths, whether it's navigating life in your 30s, whether it's raising kids, like, we have so many things in common with one another, and we don't have to shame one another. Like, each one teach one. Like, we need to use each other and build really community amongst ourselves. All right, I love you guys for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I just will see you guys in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe. Bye.